Imagine waking to a life that feels like a series of small, avoidable tragedies, mornings clouded by worry, conversations that end in silence, opportunities postponed until they no longer matter. Imagine that these miseries are not the work of fate, but the result of lessons you never learned or refused to practice. There is a philosophy, more a set of habits than a set of doctrines, that has guided people through hardship for 2,000 years. It is not magical, it is practical. It asks you to notice what you control, to treat your emotions as information, to value character over applause, and to practice small disciplines that add up to a life that can stand storms. This script is a guided narration on those life lessons, the ones people most often ignore, and why ignoring them is the fastest route to a miserable life. No effects, no theatrics, only a voice and the hard-earned advice it offers. I want you to listen as if you are standing on the edge of a map, and the path before you holds tools used by generations of thoughtful people. I will name a lesson, show the cost of ignoring it, explain the Stoic correction, and offer concrete ways to practice it. Some of these will feel obvious, some will feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is the point. Begin by finding a comfortable posture. You do not need to close your eyes. Simply let the words land. If something pricks your attention, hold it. This narration is meant to be both mirror and instruction. It is an invitation to change small behaviors and, by extension, the shape of your life. Lesson 1. You do not control everything, you control how you respond. Picture a day when a small incident ruins everything. You spill coffee on a report and tell yourself the day is ruined. The boss snaps at you and you spiral into self-doubt. The weather ruins the plans you had for the evening and you take it personally. Most people live as if the world must bend to their preferences. When it does not, they are flummoxed, enraged, anxious. Stoic practice begins with a clear distinction. Some things are up to us, many things are not. What is up to us are our choices, our judgments, our responses. What is not up to us are other people's opinions. Most events, the course of markets, or the weather. The tragedy is that people habitually try to control the uncontrollable and simultaneously ignore the realm where power actually lies. Ignoring this lesson opens the door to chronic reactivity. You forever chase outcomes you cannot guarantee, and you surrender your inner life to external volatility. The correction is simple in idea and stubborn in execution. Ask yourself in moments of disturbance, is this within my power to change? If the answer is yes, act. If the answer is no, let go of the expectation that your peace should depend on it. This is not permission to be passive, it is a reallocation of effort toward where it does some good. Practice this today. The next time you feel a surge of irritation or fear, pause. Place your hand on your chest and name the disturbance. I notice anger. Then ask quietly, is this mine to fix? Make a 2-column inventory of a current worry. On the left, write what you can affect, on the right, what you cannot. Strike out the right column or fold that paper so you stop giving it energy. Over time, this practice will free you to invest in cause, not complaint. Lesson 2. Remember you will die. Live like it gives you freedom. One of the most misunderstood ideas in Stoicism is the practice of remembering mortality. People hear it and imagine morbid fixations. The truth is the opposite. Remembering that life is limited compresses time in a clarifying way. It removes the anesthetic of someday and replaces it with urgency and gratitude. When people ignore mortality, they postpone. They say, I will tell her I love her later. I will leave that job for the right time. I will take that trip when I am free. The result is a life that looks like a waiting room. Waiting breeds regret. Regret breeds depression. Death is not the hand that should frighten you, it should be the teacher that makes small choices matter. You can practice this without dark obsession. Each morning for 30 seconds, imagine that this might be a day you will not have again. Let that single thought shape one decision, a call you make, a kindness you offer, a risk you take. Put a small token on your desk or a bracelet on your wrist to remind you through the day. When you hear yourself say someday, bite back the phrase and replace it with today when possible. The aim is not reckless abandon, it is attention. Choose deliberately, speak plainly, love without unnecessary postponement. Lesson 3. External goods are indifferent to your soul. Success in the modern world is often measured in external metrics. Promotions, money, followers, houses. None of these are inherently bad, but when you make your inner worth conditional on them, you hand your peace to things that can be lost, broken, or stolen. The effect is a life performed on the shaky ground of opinion and luck. Stoics teach that virtue, the excellence of character, is the only true good. Everything else is indifferent. It can be used well or poorly. A promotion is a tool, not a trophy that defines you. A house is shelter, not a guarantee of meaning. When happiness is anchored in externals, every change in circumstance is a tidal force that threatens to wash away your calm. Practice reorienting small choices around character. Before you make an important decision, ask, will this cultivate courage, justice, wisdom, or moderation? If not, why prioritize it? Keep small acts of integrity visible. If you are tempted to exaggerate in a meeting to secure a deal, choose the honest line instead. If a compliment arrives and you feel unstable, remind yourself that applause is not your measure. Over time, your measures shift from what others provide to what you embody. Lesson 4. Emotions arise from judgment. They are not the whole story. Most of us treat emotions as facts. I am angry, therefore something must be wrong with me. Stoicism invites a different stance. Emotions are responses based on judgments we make about events. If you believe that a minor insult proves you are worthless, you will feel crushed. Change the interpretation, and the emotion can change too. This is not an invitation to ignore feelings. Stoicism is not about flattening your emotional life, it is about examining the thoughts beneath your feelings. When a strong emotion arrives, create a moment of questioning. Ask, what am I judging about this event? Is that belief true? Is it helpful? Whose standard am I measuring myself against? Try a simple exercise. When you feel a surge, fear, anger, shame, pause and name the feeling quietly. I am feeling fear. Then ask what thought is producing that fear. Often the thought will be a story. They will laugh at me. I will lose my job. I must be perfect. Hold that thought up to the light. Is it provable? Is it necessary? Sometimes you will see the belief is an exaggeration. Other times you will see it is based on a false standard. Either way, by slowing you reclaim the space to choose a measured response. Lesson 5. Avoiding discomfort makes you weaker, not safer. Modern life offers many ways to avoid pain. Apps, conveniences, curated feeds, they smooth edges but they also soften capacity. Avoiding every discomfort shrinks your tolerance and leaves you unprepared for the ordinary hardships life will bring. Stoics recommended voluntary training. Facing small discomforts intentionally builds resilience. This is not masochism, it is training. A runner trains with sore muscles to be ready for a race. The soul trains with small hardships to be ready for misfortune. Pick one small discomfort to practice this week. It could be a cold shower, a short fast, a day with fewer comforts, or a deliberate conversation you are avoiding. Record how it feels to step into that resistance. Notice whether habituation makes the discomfort less commanding. Notice whether your ability to tolerate other frustrations grows. Over months, these small practices compound, making endurance a part of your character rather than an occasional discovery. Lesson 6. Reflection is the craftsman's tool. Weapons left unsharpened grow blunt. The same happens to the mind without reflection. People rush from task to task and at the end of the week wonder why nothing changed. Stoics kept journals and practiced evening reviews precisely to avoid living at the mercy of habit. Make nightly reflection a non-negotiable. It need not be long. 5 to 10 minutes is enough. Ask 3 questions. What did I do well today? What did I do poorly? What will I do differently tomorrow? Write short, honest notes. Over time, patterns appear. You will notice the recurring triggers, the defenses you deploy, the small victories you miss. Reflection solves a persistent problem, intention without feedback. You might intend to be more patient, generous, or bold, but without feedback those intentions remain abstractions. Reflection turns them into measurable experiments and keeps you honest. Lesson 7. Grudges bind you to the past. A grudge is like carrying a suitcase full of stones. You think you are punishing the other person, but the weight is on your shoulders. When people nurse grudges, they replay injuries, gather evidence to confirm their anger, and let the past dictate their mood. That is misery by choice. Stoics encourage forgiveness not as weakness but as liberation. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing harmful behavior. It means refusing to let a past harm hijack your present life. When someone hurts you, practice separating the facts from the story. The fact, this person acted in a way that harmed me. The story, they meant to destroy my life. The story is often an embellishment that keeps you angry. Try this. When resentment surfaces, write the facts without drama. Then write what you imagine about the other person's motives. Consider more plausible, uncharitable explanations. Often you will see the harm was not as monolithic as your story suggested. Finally, choose a small act that aligns with dignity rather than vengeance. Set a boundary, speak a clear truth, or simply refuse to carry the suitcase. Lesson 8. Certainty is an illusion. Learn to move with the current. The demand for certainty is a modern anxiety driver. People want plans that guarantee outcomes, instructions that promise success, and predictions that remove risk. Life rarely conforms. When it doesn't, fear takes root and paralysis follows. Stoicism teaches adaptive readiness. Prepare where you can and accept uncertainty where you must. Consider strategies rather than promises. For any important project, sketch a plan A and a plan B. Don't build a life that collapses if only one path is available. Learn to evaluate probability without becoming hostage to outcomes. Practice embracing small uncertainties. Take a different route to work. Try a new recipe without expecting perfection. Say yes to a low-stakes social invitation. Notice how often uncertainty resolves harmlessly. Notice how often it offers unexpected openings. Over time, you will become less fragile and more resourceful. Lesson 9. Presence is the only place you can act. You cannot act in regret or in fear. You can act only now, yet people live in headlines of the past and premonitions of the future. Meals are eaten while the mind scrolls, conversations are half listened to while plans march through the head. That is life stolen. Stoics insist on the primacy of the present. This does not disdain planning. It only asserts that plans are to be implemented through present action. Practice simple anchors to return to the moment. Before you start a task, take 3 measured breaths and name the task aloud. Before a conversation, pause and put your phone away. If your mind wanders, tell it gently, "I will think about that at my appointed time." Try single-tasking experiments. 25 minutes of focused work followed by a 5-minute break. Notice how much more you get done and how much more alive you feel in each activity. Presence is not a luxury. It is the medium through which life is lived and meaning is formed. Lesson 10. Duty to others builds the soul. Stoicism is not a solitary path. It insists we live in relation to family, friends, neighbors, and the institutions that sustain us. Treating others as instruments for your pleasure erodes the very thing you claim to value. Isolation is a modern poverty that no amount of goods can fix. Start small. Choose one person in your circle and offer a reliable act of service this week. Show up for a friend's event, help a neighbor with a task, or simply listen without offering advice. Reframe obligations as roles you deliberately choose. When you think of partnership, parenting, or citizenship as voluntary commitments, you cast your acts as expressions of character rather than burdens. Service also recalibrates perspective. When you help others, you see your troubles in context. You build social capital that is not transactional. Over time, these networks sustain you when trials come. Lesson 11. Appetite untamed becomes its own prison. Pleasure is part of life, but when every choice is driven by immediate desire, a person becomes a slave to appetite. Short-term satisfactions pile up into long-term regret. The modern economy is designed to exploit this tendency. Every click, every purchase, every binge is an invitation to trade deeper goods for momentary comfort. Stoic temperance asks for moderation, not ascetic rejection. Practice delayed gratification. If you feel an impulse to buy, to scroll, to drink, pause for 24 hours when possible. Often the urge dwindles and clarity returns. Set concrete boundaries that align with your goals. A spending limit, a screen-free hour, a ritual evening walk instead of passive entertainment. Over time, restraint produces a surprising reward: freedom. When you are not pulled by every whim, you can pursue projects that require sustained effort. Temperance frees you to be the architect of your life rather than its consumer. Lesson 12. Gratitude and negative visualization keep you humble and strong. We live beneath things so that when loss comes, we are devastated. Stoics practice gratitude and negative visualization to avoid this shock. By imagining the loss of what you value, you heighten appreciation now and prepare the mind for eventual change. This is not morbid, it is pragmatic. Each evening, name 3 things you often take for granted and say why they matter. Once a week, spend 5 minutes imagining life without something you love. Notice the tenderness that arises toward ordinary things. This practice is a hedge against entitlement and a builder of resilience. Putting it together. A daily routine that grows a Stoic life. You do not need to master all this at once. Stoicism is a practice of small, repeated acts. Here is a compact routine you can adopt starting today. Morning. Spend a few minutes recalling mortality in a way that motivates rather than depresses. Set a single virtue to practice for the day: patience, honesty, courage, or kindness. Choose one task that, if done well, will make the day meaningful. During the day, before important actions, breathe and name what you can control. When strong emotions arise, interrogate the judgment that produced them. Seek one small act of service. Embrace one minor discomfort intentionally. Keep a note of moments you allowed external goods to define your mood. Evening. Spend 5 to 10 minutes reflecting. Ask what you did well, what you can improve, and what you are grateful for. Do one exercise in negative visualization once a week. Make note of patterns and adjust the next day's intention accordingly. Stories that make the lessons live. Consider a woman who measured her value by approval at work. She rose quickly but spent nights replaying every interaction, asking herself if she had been liked enough. Anxiety hollowed her out. She began the simple practice of asking, at the end of each day, what she had done that reflected integrity. Gradually, she shifted priorities. Approval still came sometimes, but her peacefulness no longer hinged on it. When a distribution downsize came, she lost a title but not her center. She had a life beyond applause. Think of a man who avoided confrontation at home, politely deferring unpleasant truths to save the peace. Over years, small resentments calcified until the family dynamics became brittle. He began an evening practice of reflection and, noticing the pattern, initiated a single honest conversation one night, awkward, imperfect, but necessary. The relationship did not explode. It began to heal. The cost of his previous avoidance became painfully clear in the light of one honest conversation. Or imagine an entrepreneur who obsessed over outcomes. Every quarter he chased metrics with frantic energy. He learned the dichotomy of control and set a new habit: focus on means, not ends. He concentrated on clear communication, resilient products, and fair processes. Results followed more steadily, but the internal change mattered most. When markets turned, his peace was not shaken in the way it had once been. Common misunderstandings and how to avoid them. A few misunderstandings deserve correction. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It is about examining the judgments behind emotion. It is not about fatalism, expecting you to passively accept fate. Stoicism asks you to accept what you cannot change so you can most effectively change what you can. It is not an excuse for cruelty. Stoic practice emphasizes justice and duty to others. If you find yourself using Stoic ideas to justify emotional distance or moral indifference, stop. The goal is not to be unmoved, the goal is to be moved in the right direction, with the right means, by choice rather than reflex. How to begin? If you are overwhelmed, the best starting point is one tiny sustainable habit. Pick one lesson that feels most urgent to you. If your life is frantic, start with the breath anchor and present moment practice. If you are hollow from chasing approval, begin with a nightly reflection on what you did today that reflects character. If you are chronically avoidant, pick a small voluntary discomfort to practice this week. Make the habit non-negotiable. Put it on your calendar with a reminder that cannot be easily dismissed. Track it for 30 days. Small consistency produces the neural changes that make old reactive patterns fade. A final invitation. Ignoring these lessons is not merely academic, it is a practical path to misery. If you insist that the world must conform to your preferences, if you postpone speaking and loving until a future that might not come, if you treat external goods as the measure of your worth, you will live a life shaped by anxiety, regret, and hollow pleasures. The alternative is a life of steady practice. It is not glamorous, it is not sensational. It is steady work of attention, choice, and small acts of courage. Start with one simple pledge today. Choose one lesson from this narration that landed in your chest. Write one specific action you will take this week that embodies that lesson. Keep it small and measurable. Revisit it at the week's end. Notice what changed in your mood, in your relationships, and in your sense of agency. This is not a promise of perfect happiness. Pain will still come, loss will still visit, but the habits you build will make you wider and stronger. You will not be immune, but you will be better prepared to respond without panic, to act without being driven by every passing impulse, and to live with dignity when life is difficult. Listen to this narration again if you need to. Treat it as a manual you consult often, not a philosophy you admire from afar. Let it become the small daily practices that shape a life worth living. Closing reflection. I will leave you with 3 short questions to carry into your day. You can speak them aloud or hold them quietly. What did I do that was within my control today? What did I avoid that I could face with courage? What is one ordinary thing I can be grateful for right now? Answer those questions honestly. Let them guide the next action you take. Habits begin in small choices. Over time, they become the architecture of a life that is resilient, purposeful, and less prone to the misery we often mistake for destiny. If you want a life with fewer regrets and more clarity, begin here. Practice these lessons not as a doctrine but as a set of tools. Use them daily, refine them honestly. In time you will notice that the center of your life is not the applause of others, the weather, or the market. The center will be your capacity to choose well.